I share this? What we're going to do now is something that I'm calling art impressions. Impressions of art.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you a piece of art,
Okay.
and then you're going to give me your impressions.
All right.
And I'm going to try and cook up 5 pieces of art. And each impression that you have, we're going to have you rank it on, let's say, overall quality on a 1 to 5 scale, bell curve style. Right? So
Okay.
3 is average, 5 is great. And then I'm going to
Bell,
have you
bell
rank.
curve style implies sigmas, Griffin.
Okay, fine. Yeah, well, 5 is 2 sigmas.
2 sigmas only. That's only getting 95%.
Well, okay, we don't need to.
We can do the
We
coveted
want to
like
do
6 sigma.
6. So I guess we have a 7-point scale.
That's a pretty standard Likert. I don't know. We'll
I think
do okay.
2
We'll do,
sigmas
we'll
is
do
enough. 2
fine.
Do
2
you
sigmas.
think people need to know if it is really better than, All right. Okay, we're doing a 7-point scale. You're making this harder for yourself.
No. We'll stick with 5. I should indulge in simplicity.
Hold on, give me 1 second here. Just adjusting my. There we go. Okay, can you say something? Sorry.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, and I am recording the audio of this because this
You're
is
recording.
for
What
this.
what is it for?
This is just a little project we're calling
You're,
Art
you're giving
Impressions.
you're giving me incredibly little context. Are you gonna upload it somewhere?
I don't know. Maybe it become a series.
Okay.
But here's how this works. So
Okay.
you rank it from 1 to 7 on general quality. This piece of art, only this piece of art.
All right.
That I'm going to show, and then from then on, any additional piece of you'll have to then think of a way in which the piece of art I show is 7 out of 7. So you have to invent a new metric for that piece of art.
Oh
Okay?
God. Okay.
And the next piece of art I show will be ranked out of 7, both on the original scale and the new scale you invented for the first piece. And then you'll invent a second scale in which that one is 7 out of 7.
I immediately regret everything, but I guess we're going with this.
Well, you don't think this is a good idea?
No, this is a great idea.
All right.
A thing I'm really good at. We love art. Gonna have actual art friends and be like, what the heck are you doing?
All right. Here we go. Category 1. We'll edit some of this stuff out. Here's your first piece of art. Napoleon on his imperial throne by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres.
Dominique Ingres.
So let's just get your impressions on some of this art.
Okay.
Let's get your impressions here. You got art. That's that. You know how many? It's a weighty piece, right?
Well, do you know the size of this? It seems like one of the larger
Like
pieces.
in pixels.
No, I mean like because this is probably a portrait, so it will probably
Well,
be.
let's check.
We got to know some of the context, the history. But this is very intense.
I feel like maybe we're gonna have to institute a no context rule.
No context. I just need to take
think.
face value. I mean, it is better to just conjecture, right? So.
All right, here are the dimensions. 102 inches by 64 inches. By I assume less than an inch.
102 is that's like almost 9 feet tall. So this is one of the
in centimeters though it's round. It's 259 centimeters
259
by 162 centimeters. So it kind of rounds it out in that regard.
2.5 meters tall. This painting. Um, is there a time limit here for my analyses, or are we just taking like
What do you
real
mean?
first impressions here? I don't know.
You
Like how
wanna
long?
you wanna you wanna back out? You don't?
What?
Are
No.
you're worried you're overthinking it or underthinking it?
How long are you gonna give me to overthink this?
Listen, you just got to say something about this art. If you want to say big, if that's what you want to say, the other thing is that you have to come up with a way in which this art is a 7 out of 7. So you take as
Uh,
long as you need to make that assessment.
yeah. I mean, our initial scale is quality, right? And then I got to come up with the new scale.
Yeah, I mean the objective rank of quality, which is often used in art, from 1 to 7.
I'd say
Remember,
just as
in the 7, it needs to exceed 99.7% of all other art
I have
to,
made it hard myself.
to achieve a 7 ranking.
I would like to request a reversion back to a 2 sigma
You want to go
level.
back to 5? Okay, that's fine.
We're back to a 5.
It only
5.
needs to exceed 95% of art now.
That feels more doable. It's 19 out of 20 pieces.
So we got Napoleon here. I can zoom in on some
This is
areas.
Napoleon.
Napoleon won. It
The
says
first. Okay,
that's the title of the art.
it's quite grand. Let me see. In
Uh,
terms of quality, I'll say probably a 6.
wow,
Or no, we're
A
not doing the
6.
7. We're not doing the 7.
It was
It's a 4. Maybe a 4.5.
no half. We're
No
strictly unit sigmas. It's either a
This is
4 or it's a 5.
just 4.
It's a 4. We have a 4, folks.
It is a 4. I don't know if it's like a grand masterpiece, but it is definitely up there. The folds are rendered very realistically on this piece. I like that there are 3 hands involved. One is just a small hand that was stolen from a child and like shaped
Yeah.
into a finger gun kind of.
He shouldn't have done that, but now that it's done, it's kind of fun.
He's got like 2 scepters because he's got the big scepter, which has another like small person in a grand pose on it. There's
I think
2
I think the scepter is him sitting in the throne, maybe? No, it's a different guy, but
It's a different guy who is also holding a scepter. There's like a scepter within a scepter here, and that person's holding some sort of orb. Does the crown on the little guy? No. It would be pretty great if the crown on the little guy also had another little dude. Or
it
something.
may. It's just
There.
difficult to tell at this level of detail provided.
Wasn't that level of resolution. What is
Yeah.
on this carpet? I can see like a few symbols in the circles, but what is this main thing? Oh, there's like, are those angel? Oh, it's like a eagle.
I think there's zodiac signs on the carpet.
Zodiac. Well, I see the scale, and then there's like, is that Gemini? Is that like 2 angels?
This is Libra. This might be Gemini. This looks like maybe, what is it, the ram?
A ram or a scorpion.
Yeah, or Scorpion.
Scale.
This could be Pisces over here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's giving me the scale, but I think this thing on the carpet is a big eagle.
It looks like a big eagle. Or yeah. But I mean, aside from the grandioseness and the posing and stuff, I'm very drawn. Can we zoom in on the face here? Can we enhance?
That's as far as I can go.
All right, this is all we need. I just like the mild poutiness to the face here. Just like a ruler with a very pouty face.
He's pouting.
He does look like he's pouting, but in a way that implies like he is better than you.
He's royally pouting. Or
Royal.
maybe was he? I guess he's not royal.
I
He's just sort of.
I mean,
Again,
he's got the
the context here not important.
I mean, there's a lot of crowns happening here. The person went painstakingly. The artist here painstakingly went to like render every eagle on this like chain that he's wearing around. There's a lot of detail here. maybe this is a five,
Are we
like
saying
five
this
out.
is a 5?
Just like because we zoom in and we can see the amount of detail that's been included
We
here.
got a
It's
marble
very
ball
detailed.
here.
Got a marble ball.
Well, I think it's time to come up with our category. In what way is this painting truly a 5 out of 5?
Uh,
Don't say quality. Even if you say
no,
quality,
no. I need to lean back into the pouty ruler thing because I think it's a 5 out of 5 in terms of like pouty rulers, but I want to figure out a more grandiose way of saying that. I
poutiness?
don't.
Can we say poutiness in general, or is pouty ruler what you want to stick with?
It's specifically pouty rulers only because I think that'll make for a funny. I mean, we can go with poutiness in general, but
It's
there's
pouty rulers. It's a 5 out of 5 for pouty rulers, and that's a new scale which will evaluate the next piece of art.
yeah.
All right, I'm gonna load that up. Get ready for piece number 2.
All right. Are you writing all of these numbers down?
Yep, I'm writing the numbers down.
Okay.
Here we have Superman concept art from 1935.
Okay. I personally very enjoy this, but quality-wise, we'll go probably a 2. It is
Whoa.
their concept art. I mean, can we zoom in on this, or is this all we?
Let me give you a little extra juice here.
You had like the expand full screen. Okay, there we go.
This is it is like a 250p image or whatever. The concept art depicts Clark Kent and Superman. Superman with a weird cut out of his shield, and he's sort of like ribbed boots.
Oh, that's that is an S on a butt. I'm sorry.
It's on a butt.
What did you say? Butt?
No, his shield. It's on his. It's like a shield with some
Okay.
cut out
I
of
thought
it.
you said butt, just by the way of the pectoral. But all right,
It could
it's just
be,
a weird
I guess.
shield. I don't know if you cropped
Oh,
a
you
butt.
think this is cut out, and this is his pecs forming a butt?
Oh, is it a cutout? Because that makes it worse.
I don't know. Where is the S a brand that he wears on his chest?
I'm hoping it's just a brand. Wow. Okay.
I'm getting the sense you don't think this piece has a very high quality.
I mean, I already said 2. I'll stick with a 2. Like 1, it's pretty far down if it's a 1. Like only 5% of
5% of art is worse.
Worse.
Yeah.
But it does take some skill to be able to render stuff in this style. The proportions overall are correct. The head is a little larger on the right for the Superman on the right. They haven't quite hit like full superhero proportions.
He kind of looks like Reagan a little bit.
There is some Reagan feel.
But let's talk about him on the pouty rulers scale.
The pouty rulers.
Some would say that Superman is a ruler.
I mean, that was like part of the theme for the Superman versus Batman, the movie that I have not seen and know very little about. But he was essentially
a ruler of men.
Wasn't he just like taking over the world or something, and people were upset about it?
I cannot tell you.
If there's any DC audiences in the hypothetical audience for whatever this will be broadcasted for in the future, they're all probably very upset. And I can't be bothered.
I think they're probably very upset because they didn't have very good movies to watch.
Also,
watch that Batman Superman movie. Clark Kent here again. He's kind of doing the Vulcan "Peace be with you" with his left hand. In a way, there's parallels to our previous painting.
There are some. I mean, if we had gone with like powerful poses, this would also be like ranking pretty high on the powerful poses scale. Not quite a 5 out of 5, but it is a generic one. What is Clark Kent, the in disguise Clark Kent's left hand doing?
I don't know. It's kind of turning into a big mitten. That's like the fingers are all sort of lost in that. Maybe he was like a flipper man. I mean, you can't see Superman's hands, so he could have a flipper.
That was the key. That was the hardest part about maintaining a secret identity. You never see it because his hands always in a fist and stuff, but he doesn't actually have individual digits.
It's just
Or it's
one hand.
incredibly painful.
Yeah.
Like
Very
Wolverine,
bad. Very bad journalist. Not able to write well.
it was incredible. I'm pouting. I mean, the one on the left looks like he's pouting a little.
Let's get just the average pouty ruler quality of this. We have a
Average,
ruler and we have one who's pouting.
I would say a one.
A 1 out of 5 for pouty rulers. Well, this is not doing very well for overall art. But let's get
Overall,
those numbers up. Overall art score. Maybe that's what we
all right.
should call this, art score. Let's
Art
get
score.
the next metric here for this art.
Let's see.
This
Uh,
this has to hit it out of the park in one way or another, and we're gonna find it.
God. Um, Let me see. For what the name for hands and extremities? Like ambiguous in extremities.
Ambiguous extremities. A 5 out of 5 for
Yeah,
ambiguous extremities.
we don't know. We just simply don't know about those digits.
Yep.
Or
They're
maybe
they're
we'll
hidden
never be.
from us and from God. Well, thank you, Superman concept art.
5 out of 5 on the ambiguous extremities scale.
I think that's going to bring us into our next piece of art, which is loved by everybody, which is
Ah,
the bean,
the bean.
which is famous sculpture. Now again, we are evaluating a picture of that sculpture, which in a way is art.
Are
We did
we
not travel to Chicago for this and you know what?
so
You'll simply have to evaluate it on its own merit.
so am I evaluating the bean, the structure, or am I evaluating this specific picture
I
of the
guess
bean?
we have to say you're evaluating this particular picture of the bean.
All right, so we're evaluating the picture, in which case quality is a also two. Well, if I were to compare like the drawing of Superman to this picture of the bean, it I don't know if the one is inherently better enough than the other to constitute like it being a full increment better.
I
I
mean,
would
that's
say
fine. If you can't pass the test, if this doesn't
I,
meet average level for art, then that's that. And frankly, since we can't judge the bean directly, this is the only way.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a two as well. Just by this picture, I can't like
And let's get your
enjoy
impressions. Let's get your impressions on this picture of the bean.
my impressions. I mean, it's like dead center in the middle of the screen. Um, in the middle of the frame. It is offset from the top, so the beam occupies the lower 55%. There's plenty of people just crowded around. Um, I guess I can give it some points, hypothetical art points for the symmetry. It looks very well centered, or maybe it was just a function of cropping. Uh, Otherwise, with regard to other compositional elements, it's like okay, I guess. Nothing else really stands out about me or about this picture. Um,
Do you,
da, da.
do you think this is how the artist of the bean intended for it to be conveyed? As a low res image taken from about 30 feet away?
I mean, how are we truly to know what goes on in the mind of whoever created any sculpture, any work of art, or what they intended? Isn't part of the value of art like in the interpretation by the viewer? It's all meant to be consumed, right? And in the consumption, it gains its value and merit.
I'll also add that I think this sculpture is actually called Cloud Gate, but because of an unfortunate extension that I don't know how to get out of my Google Chrome, it reads it as Butt Gate. I have an extension which changes the word cloud or the cloud to butt or my butt, respectively.
Um, I mean, it is only one step along in the journey of interpretation. So I don't think that necessarily excludes or hinders the scoring process for the bean or butt gate.
And for
Um,
pouty rulers, how would we rank the bean?
Surprisingly, maybe not a one. It's not a one.
It's not a
I
one. I
I,
okay.
I, I feel like interpret. I mean, the bean cloud butt. Or, no, not cloud butt. Cloud gate or butt
Cloudgate.
gate. I don't know. Cloud butt.
Cloud butt is
Or
interesting.
it. I mean, the enormity of the structure itself is like it implies it's ruling over something, be it the concept of clouds, beans, butts, or gates.
Do you think
Um,
the pouting of it looks like some of the people might be miserable. Do you think that increases the pouty ruler score? Some of the incidental people in the shot.
oh, we do have to like take into account each individual's poutiness here. There is
Again,
like,
they are not resolvable at this level of image quality, but they are there.
but we can conjecture. We can try. I mean, there's someone pushing a stroller, so I'm going to uh, assume that someone here is pouting. There's a small child, and like part of their default state is always pouting as well.
Right, and they're being forced to confront art for what is perhaps
Yeah,
the first time in their life. That's not necessarily fun.
I don't think any child has ever had fun in their life anyway. So,
So pouty
uh,
rulers, what are we gonna? Let's put a number on it.
I mean, the number I'll put on it is a two.
A
By
2 out of
like, it's not,
5.
but I won't go any higher than a two.
And surprisingly, I think ambiguous extremities
There,
it sort of applies here.
yes, there are quite. I don't know what the hands are of all of the people in here. I don't know. Like, we're only seeing one part of the being here. I don't know what's on the other side. There's a lot of ambiguity overall to this entire picture because, again, we are, I guess, judging the picture of the bean and not necessarily the bean itself.
Which is
So,
part of what makes this so great. Part of what makes this a great idea for
there's
scoring.
incredible amount of ambiguity. I'm torn between four or five if we're to be truly objective. Um, like, ambiguity wise, I think it's comparable to the previous Superman concept
Then let's
art.
let's give it a 5 out of 5 for
We'll give
ambiguous
it the
extremities.
five.
And unfortunately, you still have to come up with another category in which this photo of the bean, Cloud Gate, is a 5 out of 5.
Cloudgate.
We need an independent orthogonal measure of art quality to add to our proceedings here.
Another level of orthogonality.
Another dimension along which art can be finally judged quantitatively once and for all.
Uh, let's see. There are, I don't know, there's the curve, the Euclidean nature. Going to start using words that I don't know, but I think that's what makes it artful. Uh, Maybe I'll be boring and just go with reflectiveness. It is quite a reflective thing.
Reflectiveness. All right, we're giving it a 5 out of 5 for reflectiveness.
I think the bean deserves that.
And you know what? A lot of paintings not reflective at all. They're just made with oil. They don't even, you know.
I mean, the oil's got a little sheen to it
But that's clearly it's not a 5.
if you look real hard.
This
Yeah.
is exciting because it really brings us to our next piece here, which is a picture of a Nefertiti bust. And again, I have to say that although we would like to evaluate the sculpture, we just have to evaluate this picture of it.
Cool. All right. Down the list of independently orthogonal dimensions of art
Well,
we
let's
go.
get your impressions first. Get your impressions.
Initial impressions. It's good. I feel like as far as ancient artifacts go, pretty decent quality. Also a good picture. It lets the sculpture itself stand. The lighting is decent. no distracting backgrounds here. You have a nice contour for the bust and the surface in which it is placed. Other things, I imagine it looks like there probably would have been paint for where her pupils and irises would have once been, but it's long faded, so it's just turned into a milky white, which I appreciate. I think is neat. I don't know what else. They got the
Ears a little chopped up. We got a little bit of chopping
ears a
on
little
the ear.
chopped out. It looks like it's been worn away on what would be the left side of the bust. And you got the wearing away of the paint on the the neckline and like what would be her top tunic, whatever they would call it there.
I can't tell you. I have no idea. It does kind of seem like maybe the symbol in the middle of the headgear was just kind of put on a lot later by somebody who was not as good at sculpturing. It seems a little messed up.
Well, maybe it's paint, not paint. Maybe it's like a snake or something that's winding its way around.
It seems like they kind of rushed that one. I don't know.
They needed something at the end, but we do have at least the face is solid. I think the rendering of the anatomy all very high. Maybe that's already like the 5 out of 5.
I think we're getting a quality rating here. I'm hearing some high marks. Are you going to put it for 5 out of 5 out of quality?
On quality already, I think. Oh, but
well, that's the first metric.
Well, because I have to judge the picture and not the bust. It's a very important distinction.
Right. Of course.
I think as far as pictures of historical artifacts as well, it's pretty up there for the reasons I already described at the beginning. So I give it a 4 out of 5.
A 4 out of 5. This is a good picture.
A good picture.
And on the pouty rulers scale.
Pouty rulers? Well, fortunately, this is also another ruler, which is...
I mean, it's sort of a theme in art, for over the last couple thousand years. People did a lot of rulers. I think it's just fortunate that it happened to cross twice in our session today.
But I don't think she has a hint of poutiness in this picture. Fortunately, there's none of nothing in the lips to betray her. Like any poutiness that she might be feeling here. So we'll just go with the 1.
It'll be a 1 out of 5.
Or is there an option? But no, we got to go with 1, right?
I'm just gonna say nobody has been topping Napoleon on this. He stands alone for the pouty rulers.
I will give her a 2 just for being a ruler, because I think if we look at the grand scheme of all art. Well, there is art that is not of rulers, and so
I feel we did give the bean a 2 out of 5.
A 2 out of okay, fine. She gets a 3 for being.
No. If you say this is a 1, this is a 1. Don't.
Well, I'm not.
We don't second guess yourself here.
I'm going to rescind the 1 and give it a 2 by nature of being a ruler.
Right.
And we did put forth that the bean is perhaps a ruler in its own right over something.
Well, the picture of the bean. Again,
the picture of the bean. It's it's all interpretation and how we feel in that moment, right?
This is another great category for this one: ambiguous extremities.
Incredibly ambiguous.
Probably another 5.
I think it's another 5.
I mean, it's of the few extremities that are present. Again, kind of like there's some stuff missing. I guess the eyes, even tips of the eyes.
Tips of the eyes, the ears have been lobbed off, and so we will never truly know. Maybe, even whatever the symbol on the top, I would say you could interpret it as a rush job, or just, some other stuff was supposed to be there, and it just fell off where the paint's worn away. I feel like there could have been more. So, 2 options of interpretation there alone allows for ambiguity. I think it's a 5.
It's got to be. All right. Reflectiveness.
It is reflecting.
There is an element of reflection. I don't know if it's quite bean, or rather picture of a bean level.
But I don't think it's at the level of the bean. But
do you think that they named Mr. Bean after the sculpture? Do you think that like he sort
We
of causes people to reflect on their lives?
I've reflected deeply on my life multiple times in watching like any and all Mr. Bean episodes. So
Also,
I wouldn't.
it's kind of shaped like the turkey that he gets his head stuck in that one episode, in a way.
I think a lot about the episode where he eats like a bunch of oysters to spite some. He was at like an oyster bar and he sees some guy that he really doesn't like, so he like eats a bunch of oysters just to spite him and show, oh, I'm better than thou, that I can eat a bunch of oysters. But then the other guy like eats one oyster and then makes a face and talks to the waiter, and then they go like, oh yeah, all these oysters are bad. And they take away the whole tray of oysters which he had just eaten from, and then he gets incredibly sick. And
That's just a regular day, for most people.
that that happens to me more often than you would expect. Not necessarily oysters, and well, actually, necessarily oysters in some instances too. Um, what were we talking about again?
We missed the
Reflective.
plot here, but how reflective is this piece of art?
I think like there is the literal reflectiveness, of which there is some, but we can also talk about the metaphorical reflectiveness, or also just the reflectiveness in her face, because I think she looks reflective, like expression wise. Like she is reflecting on something, just as a
Possibly.
awful ruler here.
Or she could just
Uh,
be vibing,
yeah, I don't know. Reflectiveness, they're not mutually exclusive. I
What
think you can be.
what are we putting it at?
I,
Let's get the number down. Cuz there's some I mean, it's no bean. But there's some other elements here.
um, yeah, it's not the bean. If we're saying the bean's at 95% of all art, I would say this is probably at a 3. I want to round up
A
to a
3
3.
out of 5. That is our first 3 for this entire ranking.
Incredible.
And you know what I'm going to ask next. I'm going to need a new category
Ah,
that tracks that hits the 5 spot for this piece of art.
mm, we'll thinking, and thinking in terms of, let me see. There's the possibility of like last minute additions. I'm thinking about like we can contemplate that the thing on the head was potentially a last minute addition. Oh wait, there's also reflectiveness in the surface. We completely ignored this. The
Wait, I
surface.
thought you were taking that into account.
I missed it.
We have to adjust? Do we have to move up to a 4?
No, it is a 3. It's still a 3, but now it's a
Okay.
much higher. It's a much more solid
Higher
3.
scoring
Before it
3.
was under 3, but I rounded up to 3. Now it's definitely over 3.
A
and I'm
rounding
rounding
down.
down to
Yeah.
3. No. What is she?
You want to do what was the category you were contemplating? Like rush jobs done well?
Rush jobs? Just like 99% done well with like one last minute addition,
A
at
fatal
least with
flaw.
fatal flaws.
A 5 out of 5 for fatal flaws. I kind of like that.
I mean, I like the concept. Is this a 5 out of 5 on the fatal flaw scale?
I mean, it's
Uh,
a very good sculpture and a very good picture with one wacky thing in there that looks like somebody did it 200 years later and messed it up.
I can we call last minute additions like wacky last minute additions?
A 5 out of 5 for wacky last minute additions.
Let's see. Apparent wacky last minute additions.
Apparent wacky last minute additions. All right. We have one more to add, which will complete our defining of the basis set of art. We have Chelmansky's Partridges in the Snow.
I've never seen a partridge.
I believe this is a painting.
It's a painting. Most likely.
Partridges in the Snow. So just give me some impressions here. So you've never seen a partridge. So honestly, accuracy could be way off here. This could be anything. You know, this
Yeah,
he could be drawing seagulls in the snow for all you know.
yeah. I've never
This
seen a
might
seagull in real
this
life
might
either.
this might not even be snow.
I've also never seen snow.
And again, I thought this said 1981 and it is 1891.
Yeah, it's
So a little
1891.
bit of an inversion there. Um,
It's okay. It's within an order of magnitude, so we'll allow it.
I gotta say this: partridges probably didn't change that much in that time. Also, snow. So you know,
Maybe Partridge is still a thing.
what do you
Do
mean?
we
Are they a
know?
thing?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, are they like the dodo bird or the passenger pigeon? They've gone extinct since 1891 or
No,
whatever.
no, they're absolutely still around.
Where are they around? You know birds. You
I
should
know
know,
birds.
right?
They're mainly in Europe. Um,
Oh,
a quail is a type of partridge. So just think that.
oh,
They're just
okay.
called quail because you know people named them different over here. That's it.
Okay.
Did I take
Well,
some of the magic out of the? I
I
guess you
think
have a context now to assess these partridges.
I think there's a give and take. I mean, I am a sucker for like paintings which are almost wholly one color, and there's just like very minute differences in the coloration to allow you to see something, which I'm getting a lot of out of the snow. I'm more interested in the snow than the actual partridges here. Um,
That's
don't
that's
get me
that's a spicy take. That's the kind of thing we need on this.
wrong. That's, I mean, don't get me wrong, some of the partridges are nice. I like the third from, yeah, that third from the left, which I guess is in the center. It's got like a nice blue mane. I don't know what that part of a
Yeah,
bird is called.
I think.
The
I
center
mean,
bit.
I think that's the breast, more or less.
The breast. I was trying to avoid saying that, but
You're
here we
trying
are.
to avoid saying breast.
I don't know.
What is this? Like rated G? It's like you eat a
Who is
chicken
this?
breast.
Okay, fine. I've
It's
just
not
made it
like
worse by saying
titillating to say breast.
that. Okay, cool.
I didn't make it
I don't
weird.
know. You? All right.
I didn't do
Yeah,
it.
sure. On the partridge breast, the blue that we have going on there. Um, Let me see. I mean, I enjoy the snow and the shapes that are being made here and what it implies. It makes me worried for these partridges. Where are they? Where did the rest of the landscape go? How did they get here? Where are they going? I'm contemplating a lot of things. Might factor into one of our other scales later. And I like how they kind of get out of focus, the partridges in the back.
Yeah,
Um,
just turning into lumps in the snow.
yeah. Mounds of dirt. You wouldn't know. Again, I don't know what partridges look like, so they could also just be
I'll jump in here. This is like more or less on point. You know, like sometimes you can tell when somebody's like I went to a I don't know bakery or something, and there was like I think it was called like Lovebird Bakery. And they had some
okay.
like house sparrows painted, and it's like, oh man, you guys did not know where those plumage marking went, huh? Like they're just kind of all over. Like you just like took a shape of a sparrow and shook it up, and wherever the markings landed, that's what it looked like. But this is like plausible. This is the feather work is reasonable here. You know, I'm willing to I'm not a partridge expert, but it looks like
Hmm.
old Joe did a good job in that
I mean,
regard.
I'll accept your appraisal on this. So yeah, okay. I mean, quality wise, I'll give it a. I think I give it a 4. We're definitely rounding up to a
A 4
4.
out of 5.
What did I give Napoleon at the beginning?
You gave him a 4 out of 5. You were almost on a 5, but then you
I
backed
thought I
off.
did. I switch it up to a 5 or in the
Did you
middle?
want to? I have it as a 4.
I did. I think I switched it up
All
just
right,
like
it's a 5
make
out
sure
of
the
5.
amount
Napoleon's
of
out of
detail.
5.
In which case, I'll give this a 4 by my own take, mostly because I just like the snow.
You think it should have been snow in the snow, and these partridges are just
If
kind of
there were no
they're
partridges here,
muddying the waters.
if there were no partridges here, I would be tempted to score this a 5 out of 5.
Wow. Well, something to consider. All right, and our next metric is pouty rulers. 1 out of 5 for pouty rulers. Again, you've singled out the third from the left, who kind of has a bit of an attitude.
He does. Is it necessarily pouting or just arrogance?
Well, I don't know. It's
Do we see
You're the interpreter here. I gotta follow along more or less.
how much do we know about partridge flock behavior and social dynamics? Do we know who would be considered in charge here? Is there a hierarchy to command? Because maybe like the ones on the left who are trailing are like, the second in commands or whatever. Because I would argue the one most on the left, who is pretty much behind the one in the center, it may be pouting a little bit over some sort of decision that this one has made.
I don't know how to identify the rulers, but absolutely there is a ruler among this whatever clutch of partridges. Yeah, they established that in the same way as chickens, I believe. The series of
Just by battle.
violent pecks. Yeah.
Do we see any that are missing beaks?
Missing
Showing
beaks entirely. Okay.
showing marks of combat and violence. I know that's something in chickens that they do. You have to be real careful because they will like take each other out.
Personally, I don't see any marks of combat here, but again, this is a little stylized.
Interesting.
Joe may not have been telling us the whole picture.
But I will argue, if we continue the line of thought, that the one on the most on the left is the second in command, I would say he is pouting a little bit. He's not a full ruler, but
Right.
he is pouting. The scale is very flexible in that if there is pouting or if there is a ruler, it still allows you to score more points than
Yeah. I mean, the more terms you have in any metric, right, it's going to be weighted, but it's also going to weigh you down, right? So, for instance, if you, for apparent wacky last-minute additions, which I'm kind of jumping ahead here, again, you're going to have to satisfy all of those, all 5 of those words to really hit the top score there. So, but let pouty rulers, we're going to give it.
Let me see. I think this one is a 2 as well.
A 2 out of 5.
Like we did for the picture of Nefertiti's bust. By nature of having one bird that might be pouting. We don't know how the others are thinking too. Actually, the ones in
front are pouting. Do you think?
the ones immediately in front of the bird in the center also look like they're pouting a little bit. I'll take anyone whose like heads are pointing downwards a little. They might be pouting as well. So
that one's kind of radiating misery.
Yeah,
Everybody around
pouting
him is.
form of misery, right?
Absolutely.
So
Do you want to bump that score up?
I think it still stays at a 2.
Okay.
But it would be a 3 if there were at least like the ruler showing
a tiny crown, perhaps.
pouting. A tiny crown would definitely elevate it. We have to make a
May make a hit to
stretch.
the quality score in that regard.
Yeah.
Ambiguous.
I don't know if there were a tiny crown in this painting, it might also increase the quality. In my opinion, like tiny crowns or a complete canvas of just snow would elevate this to a 5 out of 5.
We
but
could have used tiny crowns as a Napoleon metric. I just want to
That
add
would have been an
there was
excellent
at least one in
metric.
there.
Yeah, but would it be a 5 out of 5 on the tiny crowns?
Oh, I see.
Right? Just
Right.
because it has one does not mean. Now, if the scale was at least one tiny crown, then I guess it would be 5 out of 5. But it
Well,
would also be a binary metric.
That's not a very good scale. Yeah.
Could argue otherwise, but anyway.
Ambiguous
2 out of 5.
extremities.
Fuck.
Again, we've got some of these partridges in the back, just blurred into
Yeah.
nothing.
You can't tell what happened to their extremities in the back.
That might not even be a partridge at this point.
It could be a mound of dirt. It could be a mole. It could be a very small beaver, or these could be very large partridges. Like, it's a large partridge.
Large parch. I mean, it's not. I guess it's not unheard of. There could be a hormonal issue. You'd have a group of larger partridges than usual.
Partridges with defunct pituitary glands in the snow.
Well, I don't know if they'd have a pituitary gland because they're not mammals. There's some other sort of. You know what I mean? They've got other chromosomes involved.
If you tell me, I will believe you on blind faith. So, anyway, whoops. I'll say 4 out of 5 on
4 out of 5.
Because the ones in front, they do have fairly obvious extremities, but the ones in the back could be anything back there.
Yeah. That is the first 4 out of 5 for ambiguous extremities since its introduction here. And we've been hitting 5s for that for the last 3 pieces. Which is like, maybe says something about art. Like, you don't have to, if you're bad at drawing fingers or something, like, the will to art is still for you.
I mean, we've touched on a very deep note, which is that everybody is bad at and hates drawing hands.
Extremities.
Which is why so many of them leave it to be ambiguous. That's why you always got people hiding it. I mean, you see all the portraits of like the generals or military figures and rulers where they're just hiding the hand in their breast pocket or something, right? Like one hand over their chest, hiding in there.
Kind of ironic though, because we did just look at the Napoleon painting earlier, who was famous for that. And in that painting, he literally had 3 hands.
Yeah.
So, a fickle thing, art.
That's what they're not telling you. That's why the quality score is so high. They take it upon
they busted down Wall's preconceptions. Reflectiveness. Now, obviously, we have a matte surface here on the snow. How reflective is this situation?
Do we see? There aren't even reflections of the partridges in the snow. He didn't really do bounce lighting for.
Yeah, I was just thinking we don't really have a shadow so much on any of them.
These partridges, I guess, exist on a separate plane from the snow. It's almost a bad Photoshop job.
Do you think this is just 2 paintings and he was doing partridges in the woods and had to meet a deadline and laid it over?
Maybe.
Partridges in the snow.
I mean, we're getting back into the wacky last-minute edition.
He didn't even finish the last partridges. I mean, possibly. That's a very... we've been talking about it like it's a choice here, but...
It's quite possible that this was supposed to be just snow in the snow.
Snow in the snow?
But then the guy just decided to add partridges, like, on a whim, and now we have partridges in the snow. God, what's the scale here? Reflectiveness?
Reflectiveness.
I did not reflect much upon looking at this painting. And
it's sounding low. It's sounding like a low score.
Very little reflection here. Almost like detrimental lack of reflection. So I think, unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know if there's a moral attribution we make to the numbers that we put on these scales. It gets a 1.
It gets a 1 out of 5. You know what? That's the moral imperative here is getting those numbers correct for art.
Okay.
For art's sake. Apparent wacky last-minute additions. Again, we kind of touched on this. Do we think that maybe, devoid of any context or understanding of what's going on here, do we think maybe he just slapped these partridges on a different canvas or didn't finish the painting? Or are these partridges a slip-up? I guess the question is it the partridges or the snow? Which is the...
Yeah, it would be he was working on the partridges and was gonna have like there were gonna be a lot more partridges or like forest background, but he ran out of time. It's like, what's something quick? I'll just do the snow. Snow's easy. It's practically already almost done, and they just had to like add a little bit more arbitrary color here. And then you got partridges in the snow. Or it could be the other way around. It was originally snow and he added partridges on a whim. It would
Yeah.
be an odd choice, but hey, I mean that meets the wackiness.
He was drawing
We
snow. He's checked the commission too late and said it's partridges. He said, "Well, I'm bound. The customer is always right. Let's put this
uh,
in."
well, we have no real way of verifying whether or not this is truth, and even if we did, I don't want to know about it.
Again, the category is not wacky last minute additions. It is apparent wacky last minute additions. So
And
it's entirely up to the viewer.
yeah, in which case, I think it's at least a 3. Dare I say a 4?
Well,
Uh,
dare you? You have to tell me.
Purely based on what I want to believe, I'm going to say a 4. I want to, the ambiguity that it allows for, like, it could either have been the snow or the partridges that were a last minute wacky addition. I'm going to put it as a 4. I'm going
It's
to go
at a
big
4.
here. It's a 4.
And we have just one last task to complete here, which is what's a scale that's 5 out of 5 for this painting? This painting has not hit 5 out of 5 in any category yet. How do we 5 out of 5 it?
I'm going to say unnecessary addition of partridges. Or we should do unnecessary addition of fowl things, where we can have fowl spelled as FOWL.
For
But
unnecessary foul.
unnecessary
It's a 5
foul,
out of 5 for that.
as I stated in the beginning, I would just prefer this to be a painting of snow.
So here
With
are
the
the
color.
final peer-reviewed objective categories for art. If you're going to rank any art, if you're going to assess it, quality, pouty rulers, ambiguous extremities, reflectiveness, apparent wacky last-minute additions, and unnecessary foul. And with
Yeah.
that, we've
Foul
completed our art impressions. Do you feel like you've advanced art?
I think I've had to very much.
At this point,
We've done something here today.
something great has happened, yeah. All right, I'm going to kill it.